Hello and welcome to this Actor Thomas video with me, of course, Actor Thomas. Now today I'm actually going to do something that I hadn't really planned because I've already had a video planned and I was ready to record, but I thought I would talk about this today. Now, a couple of years ago, of course, started off with this reimagining of traditional animated Walt Disney films, and then they have obviously created them, recreated them or remastered them into live action. Now, of course, we've had Cinderella, we've had The Jungle Book, and this year we have a number of others coming out, like Dumbo and The Lion King. Now, I really liked these films, and also you had, of course, Beauty and the Beast and everything like that. Now, like I said, I really enjoyed these films when I was a child. I really enjoyed them. I used to love watching The Lion King, and all these wonderful stories that helped create my imagination and everything like that. And it was great. Of course, it was a great idea, and it was entertainment for children. It also had lessons in there that the producers and the storytellers wanted to try and get across. That obviously, instead of it being quite difficult for the children to understand, it's obviously in bite-sized sort of segments for them to understand in an easier, more simple way. The idea, obviously, particularly for like something like The Lion King or Bambi or anything like that, the idea of it being, if your parents die, they're gone. They're never coming back, apart from the odd dream sequence. But it's that sort of thing. It's very, they're no longer here. They're no longer physically with you, but they are with you in other ways. They're always looking after you or looking over you, which of course is comforting for a child if they've lost a parent or a grandparent, and that can help them with the grieving process. The idea of not all people are kind. Some people will pretend to be kind to you, but really are trying to wrong foot you and make you make the wrong decisions and cause you harm in the long run. So in many ways it's a very clever thing to do, and not always trusting people, which is also a great thing. And I think that was a brilliant thing that they've done. Now, of course, going on the ones that we've already seen, like Cinderella, Beauty and the Beast, and The Jungle Book, 3 very good films. All 3 of them are very good. The only problem is, why was it made? It's exactly the same story, exactly the same characters, pretty, it starts in the same place, it finishes in the same place. Granted, it might hit certain different points, but in the long run, it's basically telling the exact same story. Now, why were these made, and why are the future ones being made? It can't be because the originals have now become so dated that they're no longer able to be watched, because that's garbage. Those films were perfection. They will always be perfection. But how can remaking those films make them better than the originals? Because they don't need to be remade. Now, it's the same old thing about anything that is very successful at a time, and then it either the film franchise stops, and then after a certain amount of time they try and bring it back with either the same sort of story or same kind of actors or anything like that, but everything's completely different. If it was originally so wonderful, why was it either stopped or why did, you know, so I know I'm going off on a bit of a tangent here, but it's true. These films were brilliant. They still are brilliant in my opinion. These new films are good. Of course they're good. They're obviously, it's telling a good, honest story. But does it need to be made? That's what I'm asking. Does it need to be made? I myself don't think it needs to be made at all. It's not as if you are having to reach out to a brand new audience. I know for a fact, I've got many friends who have got small children, and they're introducing them to these animated films. They're loving these films. It's not as if you can say, oh, you know, I'm now in my 20s. I can no longer be seen sitting down and watching an animated film. I know, there's a live action version of this. Let's pop that on. That makes it a little bit more respectable and a little bit more decent for a 20-something-year-old to be watching a children's film. No. If you want to watch the film, be it an animated or live action or whatever it is, brilliant. Just put it on. Put it into the DVD player and watch it. Or if you're old enough to remember, the old VCRs. Just put the old tape in there, job's a good one. But seriously, like, Lion King is a brilliant, brilliant story. Obviously it's about this young lion who obviously is living an idyllic world. He's going to be the king one day when his father dies. And his uncle cons and schemes and manipulates to get rid of his nephew so he can become king and frame his nephew for his father's killing. Yeah? Now, no offence, I'm sure the new film's going to be absolutely brilliant. Of course it's going to be brilliant. But, is it going to bring anything else to that story? Really? Can you answer me this? I don't think it will. Now, Aladdin, same thing. And that's going to, you know, is it going to tell you anything new about that story? No. So, obviously, by all means, carry on making these films. Of course, carry on making them. I don't mind. But, wouldn't it be better, instead of going over old ground, where something has been so successful, that it's so loved by everyone who watches it, why don't you make up either trying to carry on that story in the original way, be it animation, and carry on that story so that story can be continued, instead of recreating something into a new format and then trying to carry that format forward. Wouldn't it just be easier to leave it as it is originally and then start something from scratch and create new characters, new scenarios, new stories that everyone can actually enjoy without thinking, oh, I remember this scene, it's almost beat for beat exactly the same as it is in the animated version of this film, but instead of it being live action. There must be enough people out there with the creative juices that are able to create new stories, create new characters, create a new phenomenon that people around the world can sit down and watch, instead of rehashing something that is already massively successful. Seriously, like, I'm not having a go, well, see, I am having a go, but I'm just trying to say, there must be a better way of doing this. There must be a much better way of telling stories. But not even telling stories, but instead of telling old stories not even in a particularly new way, but just with a new lens, it would be better to tell just a completely new story. That's all I'm saying. And obviously you guys completely disagree with me on this one. I really don't mind. You can completely disagree, and I'm actually quite happy if you disagree with me, because that actually means a little bit more for me than you guys are disagreeing with me, because this conversation is, to me, quite important. I want to have this conversation talked about, because I feel as if you are just literally going over and over the same old stories in a different format, does that mean we no longer can come up with new ideas? If we can no longer come up with new ideas, then that's quite worrying to me. I don't want to see the same old story over and over again. just retold either in animation or live action, or with or anything like that. I don't want to see that. I want to see it. I want to see a new. I would like to see the original being left alone as it is, and maybe make more off that, so you can make maybe more sequels or prequels or whatever you want to do, and then creating a whole new story, even if it is set in that universe. Then I can understand. Then there's a link, instead of it basically just being a copy. Now, this is obviously this is my opinion, of course, and like I say, everyone's out there is able to have their own opinion. That's completely fine by me. Like I say, but I honestly think if we it just makes more sense to me, instead of doing this, making a brand new story from scratch. That's your own idea. It makes things so much easier. It really does. Anyway, that's enough from me today. Sorry it was a bit of a ranting video, but I just want you to talk about it, because I feel as if those films meant so much to me when I was growing up as a child. I remember sitting down with my granny when I used to go and visit her on holidays during the summer, and literally just sitting there and just watching it. It used to be so, it used to be such an important part of my summer holidays, going to see my grandmother. And I just don't see, and like I said, those films will always mean something to me. And obviously I fully understand that maybe 5-10 years time, there'll be someone standing, maybe not where I'm standing, but in front of a camera somewhere, saying exactly the same thing, saying that when he was a child he used to watch the animated version of these films. When he got older a little bit, he watched the live action version of it, and they're great, they're brilliant, they're both this, both that, both that. I mean, great. If they're both brilliant films, great. But you still have to ask the question: why was the live action one made if the animated one was so wonderful? Anyway, I won't start again. But I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have, please leave a like, a comment, or a subscribe. If you want, you can become one of my patrons. The link is down below. And as always, as I do at the end of each and every one of my videos, I'll give you a little salute and say goodbye. Goodbye.